Want to learn tips about tapping into your culture with picture book writing? Then this is a show for you. Hi, my name is author Tonya Duncan Ellis, and I'm here for another episode of Write This, my author interview show. And I am excited to welcome Seina Wedlick to talk about her picture book releases and upcoming projects, and also to pick her brain on using elements of culture and history to write your picture books and come up with picture book topics and themes. I've been following her work for a while. I met her in person at an SCBWI conference over a year ago, and I'm so excited to welcome her to the show today to learn all about her beautiful books and the process behind them. I see that she's joined us, so I'm going to send her an invite now. Joining us for this episode. It's going to be impactful. Let me get it here. I've sent her the invite, and she's here. Hey,
Hello.
how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Fine. I'm so glad to see you and glad that we got time to do this. We have been talking about getting you on for probably over a year.
Yeah,
So
for
I'm so
over a
happy.
year. You're right. We
Yes.
met at the SBWI conference last year
Yes.
in February.
And
So that's been a while.
yeah, and you were getting ready to have your youngest child here. So I
Yes.
know you've been busy.
So right, you're right. And he's turning one
Oh,
next month. So
I
yeah.
know. Time flies.
That's
And what I love is when I met you, that was when your book naming ceremony was coming. Was it out then? I don't know if it was out then.
no, it wasn't out then. It was coming out 2 months later in April. So yeah,
Yeah.
I remember. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So that was special. That came out around the time of the birth of your child. So that's cool.
Very, and I can tell you all about that and how that impacted my lunch. So,
Yes. So
yeah.
can you tell us a little bit about where you're from and your background?
Yeah.
And we mentioned in your book, but we can show that too and talk about the origin story. I love it so much. It's such a
Right
beautiful book.
here. Thank you.
Yes. Okay.
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you so much for having me, Tanya. I'm super excited to be here and to talk to your listeners today. I'm originally from Nigeria. It's a country in West Africa, but I live here in California. So California is my home now. Let's see. What was your other question?
Well, we'll talk about books. And I live in Houston, and we have a large Nigerian community here. So there's many people from Nigeria that live here in Houston.
We we have a community here, but it's I want to say it's quite small. At least the community that I'm plugged into is not as large as anything close to Texas. I think the Houston Nigerians are the largest group in the U.S. There's just a lot of
Um,
us in Texas, but not as much. I know we have a huge population in Maryland and D.C. and New York, but not as many. We have a huge population here, but just not as big as Texas. I don't think anything is as big in Texas as anywhere else in the US. So there's that.
hmm Now tell us about naming ceremony, your book. If you can show it to us.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I had so much fun working on this book. This was my debut picture book. And, I've been writing for a while. I'd always known that I wanted to write. I write across the board. So picture books, fantasy, MG. I just love books and I love writing. But I hadn't published anything. And as you might know, Tanya, like getting an agent is the bane of every author's journey. It's
Yes.
that gatekeeping into trad publishing. And so I was really trying to figure out what I wanted to do, what book I wanted to work on. And this was back in 2020. And I remember thinking to myself, I have all these books I'm working on, but none that I quite felt my heart was in. And at the time, um, one of my friends had called me and she'd said something like, oh, she's having a baby, and because of the naming ceremony for my daughter, she was going to replicate that for her family, even though she's not African at all. She just thought it was so fun that we got to include her, and she was going to do that. And she's like, everyone she tells about my naming ceremony is always so like excited. She's like, did you write about this yet? And I was like, I don't really write about things that are so personal to me, like. These are things that I consider like special and sacred, and I don't always feel comfortable sharing that much of myself.
Hmm.
And um, she was like, well, think about it. She would love to read a book like that if I ever decided to write it. And I was thinking about how I could write naming ceremony by removing myself from the process. So not writing my family's what's what I'm looking for. Not writing my family's own book, but a way to make the balance where it's a book of my heart, but um being removed from it. I don't know if I'm being clear. Anyway, so that was when I decided to write naming ceremony. It'd been something that was on my mind, and when I wrote naming ceremony, I really wanted to capture my family's experience. So my family is diverse in the sense that I'm Nigerian and my husband's
Hmm.
American, and so for my children's naming ceremonies, we had all of his family, and his background is across the board. We had all of his family involved, and we also involved a lot of our closest friends. So my children have names that are Nigerian and non-Nigerian. And in a typical Nigerian naming ceremony, people invite people from their own cultures and their own tribes, typically. And so kids didn't really have the names from their parents' tribes. But in my case, my kids was completely different. They had names from across the world. And I wanted to capture the essence of that and put that in the book. And I put in little clues about my family in the stories, but keeping them removed. So, for example, this is a secret fact I don't really like tell a lot of people, but the twins in the book, the cousins, I don't know if anyone's read naming ceremony. The twins in the book are my children's Nigerian middle names, so I snuck those in there.
That's
So
good.
just little fun things like that was a lot of fun to work on. Yeah.
And I feel it's really fascinating for me because I had never heard of naming ceremony before I came across your book. So I feel like this is some kind of
Yeah.
tradition that you're going to be starting with families here.
Yeah. It was definitely a lot of fun. And for my friends who have been involved in our family's naming ceremonies, they've always thought, oh my goodness, when I have another kid, I'm going to do something like that. It's just really, really special to
Yeah.
celebrate the birth of a new life with a group of people who love you and love your children. So
Right.
that's really special for us.
Now, how many names do children normally have in a naming ceremony?
Um, I want to say it depends. For example, I was recently at a close friend's child's naming ceremony, and their son has only 11 names because they took names
11.
from just the parents, then the grandparents on each side, then the godparents, and I think somebody else. And even though they invited everyone, they just only wanted names from those particular people. So it's really interesting to see because in my culture, it's a little different. Like you invite everyone and everyone can bring a name if they want. So it varies widely. I have, which I don't know all my names, I have over 50 names from my naming ceremony when I was a
Oh,
baby.
oh my
From
goodness.
my parents, friends, really close friends, aunties, uncle. My family is pretty huge. My Nigerian family is pretty big. And I got a lot of names when I was born. So
That
it
is
really just
really
varies.
special. That's
Yes.
so sweet. It just shows the child as part of the entire community.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
I wrote
Oh,
the book Naming Ceremony by Seina Wedlick.
okay. Naming ceremony. Because your connection here in my end's kind of blurry. See your
Is
name.
it?
The connection's not as clear
Oh,
on my end
it's
here,
really
but I.
clear here. Do you want me? I'm gonna hang up and try again, but it's really clear on
Oh
my end.
no! But if you
Oh, I
hang up,
can't?
then the whole thing will be. You can't hang up because we won't. Oh well, maybe you could
Oh,
join again.
yeah, that's what
I
I
don't
mean.
know.
Hang.
Oh, okay, and I stay on here. Look, okay, I'm learning something new. Okay, and then I'll invite you again. Okay, do that. I don't
Okay,
know how it
I'll do that
is
right
for
now.
the viewers, but my connection with her is not clear.
Okay, let's see.
Okay, and then we'll see, and then I'll have you back. Okay, so she's going to come right back. This is something new for the live that we've got her to come off and come back in. I don't know. Okay, it's not clear. Good. Okay, so maybe when she comes back, it'll be better because she's blurry on my end. Now, another fun fact I can share for you guys before she comes back is that her illustrator is the same as mine. So it was exciting for me when I met her at the SCBWI conference to see her cover. She had just gotten her book and was showing me the cover. And I was thrilled because it was amazing. And I couldn't wait to see what my cover would be like. Okay, she's here. Let me send her another invite and we'll get her back on. And hopefully the connection will be a little bit clearer. Okay, I'm sending you another invite. Okay, that looks a little better, yes,
Oh
because
my
you were kind of blurry on
goodness.
the other one.
That's
And I didn't know if it was just
cool.
me or what. Okay, this is better, yes. And I was telling them when you
Oh
popped
dear.
off that we share the same illustrator,
Yes,
Janine
Janine
Muhammad.
Mohammed. That's exactly
Yes,
right.
yes, because when I met you, I was so hyped and excited when I saw your beautiful cover, which I had seen her other work, as well. But I was like, yay,
I
she
love
does.
Janine and I love her work. And, getting Janine as my illustrator was really special. Um,
Yes.
I don't know if a lot of people on the call know this, but when you're when you have a book deal, sometimes your editor will give you a group of portfolios to pick from and rank what illustrators you want to work with. And Janine was among those, and she was my first pick. And it
Right.
was really wild. I didn't know who to pick, and I was just like poring over everyone's portfolios, and I was like, I just love her work. I don't know why. I just loved everything about it. And I'm thinking about one particular image. It looked like a family reunion in a park, something like that. And the ketchup, most people expect like drops of a liquid to be circle. I just remember it was a geometrical shape. Was it a like diamond shaped, or maybe it was squares or a triangle, something that was not a circle. And I was like, I just love her use of pattern and shapes. And I was like, this is my first choice. What can we do? And she said
Oh,
yes. And that was, I don't think she knows that, but
yeah, that's
it was
wonderful. Well,
lovely.
this book topic, I love how you bring your culture of origin into the book. And I saw on your website you have another book coming. So can
I
you tell us something
do.
about that?
Yes, that's called the night market. And the night market is based on a fantastical Nigerian night market. So it's very different from naming ceremony in the sense that there's elements of fantasy and adventure in the air. It was so much fun to write that book. I loved everything about it. Yeah. So that's
Ah,
my next one. It comes out September 10th by Random House.
and something interesting I was thinking about as you were talking is when you talked about how you were hesitant to write this story, naming ceremony, because really what we want is that Black joy. That's what I love so much
So,
about it, that it's
I,
a joyful thing we've not
right.
seen. So I just love that.
So no,
Yeah.
so let me be clear. When I say I was hesitant to write, so what my friend was asking me was to write my family's story,
Right.
and I'm very protective about keeping my kids removed from my writing life, and so you know, um, if you read the story about Amira and her sister, um, while the story of naming ceremony is very similar to my family's, it's not about two sisters. My oldest is a boy, it's a son,
Right.
and my second is his sister. And I like to tell people this story. This when my daughter was born, my son was only 1.5 years old. And I remember thinking to myself back then, I wonder what he would name his sister if he could. He was only a year and a half. And I played with that idea, like, what would he name his sister if he could? And I kind of just shelved it and worked on other things. So fast forward another year, when my friend is like, did you ever write that story? You should write it. I would read it. And I was like, I
Mhm.
don't know, it's so personal. Like, and she's like, just think about it. And I was like, I did want to write it, but it just felt so personal. So I kind of removed myself and it was like, I'm not gonna write a brother sister story.
Mhm.
I'll write a sibling story of two sisters and just remove myself from the art. And it gave me the distance I needed to just write it
Right.
in a way
Yeah.
that I was happy with. And during submissions, I got some interesting feedback from some agents when I was trying to get an agent for my work, and they all, a couple of them said, well, why does this character have all these names from, these different races that are attending the naming ceremony? Why don't you make everybody from the same community? And I was thinking I could do that, yes, because that's, what a typical naming ceremony is. But I really also wanted to leave a piece of myself on the pages. And that
Mhm.
was not the experience that my family had for my kids. They have names from all over the world
Mhm.
because my family's genetic makeup with my children and my husband is different, you
Mhm.
know? And so I really wanted, I stuck to my guts on that one. And I was like, it's okay if the story is not going to be a good fit for these agents. I'm going to find an agent who it's a good fit for. And I
Mhm.
did. And she loved it. And yeah, and more than one agent loved it. So that was really great. And I could, you know, I could stay
Mhm.
true to the vision that I had for my book.
That's good. And really, even though you didn't tell exactly your own story, you just
Yeah.
tapped into your emotion and the joy you had
Yeah.
during that occasion and share that, which is what we can all do instead of, we can look into our own experiences and write
Right.
about them. Yay. But I love it was inspiring to me to see how you took this occasion and took your heritage and wrote about it as I look at, trying to come up
Hmm.
with even story ideas. Because I
Um,
think you're a good example for people.
I know, thank you for that because it's something that I like to tell other authors who are trying to um, make it, you know, publishing is hard and picture books are hard, and people seem to think that picture books are easier because they're so small, but they're so hard to write. And I was saying to another author really recently that personally I like to write from culture, tradition, and my lived experiences because that's where I can best pull from myself and recreate it into fiction
Mhm.
and leave a piece of myself on the pages. Without it being nonfiction, you know, just
Right.
really spinning stories from my own life and from my own experiences. And with the night market, um, even though it's not your typical night market story, I think a lot of market stories that I've read are, you know, just set in contemporary settings, etc. Which the night market is a little different. It's a little fun. It's a little bit of magic and mystery, and I just wanted that sense of wonder. I think yeah, wonder is what I'm looking for, and you'll see that in the
Now,
book.
what is a night market? So is it just like a farmer's market or festival or something or?
Okay, so for some context, Nigerian markets are mostly open air markets. So think stalls with people selling everything from foods to material and jewelry. It's very active, it's bustling with activity. It's usually pretty crowded. And then outside of the stalls, there'll be like people who sell things in makeshift, you know, tables and chairs. It's a lot of fun and it's easy to get lost in the crowd. There's just so much to see. I remember as a kid just being like, where do I look? There's so much to see. And I really wanted to capture that in night market. So in Nigeria, night markets are not the typical night markets that you think when you think about the Asian night markets. A lot of it's different in the sense that our night markets are really day markets that open late into the night, and it's to serve the working population who may not have hard time to
Oh,
visit a market during the day. You can go at night, and a bunch of these stalls will still be open, mostly selling like food items, etc. So when I say fantastical night market, and if you read the night market, you'll see a lot of like very fun stuff like singing 19 girls, just a little bit different, but you still get to see a hint of Lagos lost on the pages. So that was a lot of
sounds
fun.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so interesting. So the things that seem normal to you are not, that's not normal, just common, are very unique, for different readers. So this is good.
Yes, but this is good now. I think the landscape of publishing has changed so much that it allows more authors to be their authentic self, and we can write
Right.
our stories now. A few years ago, that wasn't necessarily the case. It was definitely harder to get our stories recognized, and so I'm just really grateful that there's now more space for our books as well.
Right, right, right. This is cool. Someone said, "What is this that just came in?" So she was describing her upcoming book, Night Market, and I was asking her questions about the theme. So,
Yes.
what other projects do you have in the works? Do you have anything else coming up besides Night Market?
Yes, well, I have another book coming out in 2020. I have a bunch of books scheduled out for the next couple of years.
Oh,
and so I'm not sure how much I can talk about those, but the one I'm also most excited about after the night market is also with Random House, and that's called Space for Everyone. That's scheduled to come out spring of 2025. Um, I can't really share much about that yet because we haven't really started any of the marketing and publicity for
mhm.
that. But oh my goodness, I loved writing that book.
Oh,
I
yay.
did. Yeah. So
Mhm.
yeah, super excited. What am I currently working on? I just finished writing a middle grade. So fingers crossed, we'll see where that goes. Yeah, just working on new projects.
Right, so
Um
you're busy. So I know you have little kids and you're writing and doing all this. Wow.
yeah, you know, juggling a family and writing is definitely an art form in itself. And you asked me earlier on, what that was like birthing my son and having a book come out at the same time. It was different. It was really different. I think a lot of authors look forward to their debut launch as this validation of everything you've worked so hard for.
Right.
You know, books take so long to publish. At least we
Yes.
sold Naming Ceremony in 2020. It didn't come out until 2023. Um,
Ooh.
I remember, yeah, I called my agent practically in tears when my publisher sent out my marketing and publicity plan and where I was going to go for my book launch. And they had scheduled me to be on the panel for Texas LA,
Oh,
TLA.
yay,
And
that's cool.
it was way too close. It was a couple of weeks from my birth, and
Um,
so I couldn't travel. I couldn't fly, and I sent my doctor a message saying, "Are you sure? What if I drove?" And he's like, "Don't go anywhere. Stay in California. You're okay." And
right.
I felt so bad. I felt like I was missing out on all these opportunities. Luckily, they were able to schedule some virtual events for me, and I did a bunch of local libraries and bookstores, but um, it didn't feel the same. I just kept feeling like I missed out on this, I missed out on that. I
Oh,
couldn't go to the Bay Area Book Fest, and after the fact, when I was holding my beautiful, beautiful son, I was like, "Oh my goodness, it was worth everything I missed." So, yeah,
yes. Yes. And that's a beautiful legacy you leave for your children with these books you have. So that's good.
thank you. And naming
Yes.
ceremony is dedicated to my kids. Yeah, it is dedicated to
Yes.
them.
Yes, I love
So,
that.
a lot of fun.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So you got your middle grade coming. So really you're
Oh,
moving into the
no, no, no.
genres,
I'm sorry. I didn't
or
say I
you're
have it
writing
coming.
on it.
I
I mean, you're
think,
working on middle grade.
yes.
You're working.
Yeah. So
Yes.
ask me this question in 2 years, and hopefully my answer is about to be yes, it's out now. So let's see how that goes.
Right. But it seems like you've been very successful with selling your picture books too, once you
Yeah.
got through that first one. So that's good.
And, success looks fast, like, oh, that's great. You've sold a couple of picture books, you have all these books coming out, but no one sees all of the writing that's happened before, like
Right.
all the stories that didn't go anywhere. So it's it's nice, like someone said, no writing is wasted, right? No writing is wasted.
Right. That's a good point because I even see some elements of things that may not have made it, I use with other books or
Yes,
things.
exactly.
Yeah, so that's good to
Exactly.
know. Yes. Well, what do you have any advice for authors coming up or aspiring authors, people out writing?
Um, I, my advice is write the book of your heart. I like to say naming ceremony was the book of my heart. I love my family. I love my kids. And I enjoyed every moment of writing that. While I say write the book of your heart, I also think it's important to separate yourself from the art. And a reason why this is something that I'm always very keen on is when when I'm crafting a story, I think, what story am I trying to write here? Am I writing my story, or am I writing this character's story? So it's always very important that I focus on the character's story. I read a book for someone to critique, someone I know very well who's trying to become a writer, who is a writer who's trying to become a published, you know,
Mhm.
author, I should say. And I read her book, and it read like a biography,
Mhm.
but it was supposed to be, a fictional character. But it was basically my friend on the page, and I was like, distance yourself if you can from the art. This is this character's story. This is not your story.
Right,
And so it's something that I try to tell newer writers when I can.
right,
Um,
right. So
yeah.
that's good. Well, I am so happy to hear about your stories. I can't wait to see Night Market when it comes out in September. That looks like a beautiful book.
No,
So,
thank you. I'll send you a copy. I'll send you a copy
yes,
when I get my art.
yes.
Yeah.
Now, where can people reach you? Can you tell them how they can connect with you and find out about your books and buy your books?
Yes, I'm here on Instagram as Seina Wedlick, my first name and my last name. And I'm also on my website, seinawedlick.com. And that's really about it. I don't use social media as much as I guess I should, but I'm pretty active on Instagram. And I always get all the messages sent through my website. So please, yeah, reach out.
Yes. Well, thank you for joining us, Senna, and thank you all for tuning in to hear about her story. And I'll see you next week for another episode of Write This. Bye
Thank you,
bye.
Tanya. Bye bye.
Bye.